Okay, I don't know where to start today actually, because I don't know where we ended. I don't remember where we ended last week. I think we covered quite a bit of things last week. But let me ask this before I enter into any area. Are there any questions about anything? I'm surprised that you don't have questions. I was speaking with someone on my way down, and one of the things that we were talking about was how things are. I thought about the kids who are, well, I guess men and women. There's the kids who are in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and there are people who are worried about not being able to get to their home for Christmas Eve. They don't have a choice, and it's just another day to them. And then I thought about the reason they're there, because someone chose to do something that was totally wrong. And now he's at home, enjoying his life, and these kids are still fighting his battle. George Bush. You know, how someone created such a mess and now just stepped back from it and it hailed as a hero and given all these accolades. And all these kids are still dying. And you ask yourself, where is the fairness in all of this? Where why does all this have to happen? Some right down the road, I'm thinking about all of this, and then I come across 77, and I see that we're at flood stage again. Mm-hmm. And it's still raining in North Carolina and in Tennessee, and that's where the water's come from. And I'm thinking, so what do we do about this? What have we done to change? I know what we've done to deserve it. The thing that we've done to deserve is nothing, except look out for ourselves. But what have we done to change this? How much time did we spend in the last 2 days the other day, and I said, people are really dumb because people they think about celebrating Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they talk about Christmas being the birthday of Jesus. Well, if Christmas is a celebration of the birthday of Jesus, right? Then when was Christ born? Because Christ is not his last name, neither was Christ born. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So what are you actually celebrating? And her response to me was, come on, Dad, don't take Christmas. You took Halloween. Then she said, I got a question for you. Why is it that you didn't let me take sex education? She said, I'm the only kid in my class who could take sex education. And she thought she couldn't take it because I didn't want her in sex education classes. The reason she couldn't take it is because they only taught abstinence. They didn't teach prevention, condoms and disease prevention.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't teach birth control, and I felt like it was a disservice, even back then.
Mm-hmm.
That because I pretty much helped put the program together, and when they did not stick to those things, I backed away from it. I didn't want it because I didn't want her to be. I never wanted my kids to be delusional about what the real world is like. And so during the course of that, I diverted to that. Because when you put a baby in a manger and say that it's Jesus and this is the day Jesus was born, but yet you call it Christmas, that's just like saying that Sheldon was born on the 25th, but it's Evelyn's day. That's how confused it is. So if we are that confused about it, then how can we not expect the world to be in the shape that it's in when we are all confused about what we say we believe? I mean, if you, in order for us to say that Christ was born on a certain day, is to say that Christ was dead or Christ was non-existent until that day, right? And there was non-existent until that day. Mm-hmm. And if Christ means Messiah, Messiah talks about means the power to do what you were created to do. So the power to do what we were created to do was not in existence until December 25th. Which means that Elohim was non-existent, which means that the quote-unquote Holy Spirit was non-existent, which means that none of us were existent. Because all those things that I named are the things that keeps us in this human body. And I wonder how many people have given thought to that. So maybe if we change, not a whole slew of rituals and see what they really mean or what they really represent in order for us to balance ourselves as humans/gods or vice versa, Elohim/human. We have to go through those slew of things. Baptism, I don't think we covered it in an ample manner. Easter, I don't think we've done it. But Christmas especially, because Easter is one of those things that it doesn't really matter in terms of what they say about it. They say that the only thing that matters about Easter is that Jesus was not a God dying, because you can't kill a God. The human died, that God brought it alive. You see what I'm talking about?
Mhm.
That's the thing about Easter, but I think the most important one is Christmas. Because it is a total denial of the existence of the power that keeps us in existence. And a total denial of that renders us spiritually impotent. And no matter how many times we come together as teachers, no matter how many times we come together on Saturday or Sunday, no matter how many overnighters we have, if we don't get it straight in our heads about this Christmas stuff, then we never to the extent that you can actually influence in an extremely positive way the energy presence, no matter where you are, you can influence it without having to say anything about it or without even thinking about, I'm going to influence this. That will not happen until then. If the centurion had called Jesus Christ and saw him as Christ and not as Jesus, the man who is the Christ or who is messianic power, then the child never would have been resurrected. We can never resurrect the nature of our essence until we recognize that the rituals that have been instituted were instituted in order to keep us in a world of illusions, smoke and mirrors, place where you don't even see reflections, you see sparks, but you don't know what they are. And if we look at that laundry list of stuff, that's what it does. Every first Sunday, you do communion. Why? Because you said that Jesus died, he resurrected for your sins. Right?
Yeah.
Which is not the case. So what you're saying is that, in essence, is I don't have to change my life. And then when I say change my life, I'm talking about I don't have to do anything because all of it was done by Jesus. Is that not what we've been taught?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has already been done. But on the other hand, you're told you got to change. So you can't have it both ways. So these are the kinds of things I think that we need to revisit so that we don't have issues like, so that we can change the issues rather, like the impending flooding that's here. Change the issues like what's going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, Syria, etc. Change the attitude of people who hail as heroes those who have systematically killed huge numbers of people for no real reason other than finances, economics. We can't change those things until we recognize, until we uproot the religious concepts or religious distractions that we harbor, that we hold it on to. Because when you think about it, sometimes when we say certain things or think certain things about the church or about God or about Christianity, we still cringe a little bit because it's so deeply embedded. And we have to get to a place where we don't cringe. And it is my belief that the only way you get to the place where you don't cringe is by facing those things that make you cringe and analyzing them so you can understand, what they mean. Because on the heels of my talking about the Christmas Day with Jesus, etc., with your money, she said, you always analyzing stuff. And then when we got to the I'm probably going to go deeper into the idea of baptism and communion. But right now, I want us to understand and look at ways or look for opportunities to change our thought patterns, thus change our speech patterns about this whole thing about Christmas. Because up to this point, my thing about it was Christmas is simply saying the Mass of Christ. You know, that's where it comes from. And the Mass of Christ is simply taking communion in honor of Christ and have nothing to do with Jesus. And when you separate that, then it's like separating yourself from your teacher.
Mm.
If you separate yourself from the teacher, you don't grow. And what you'll find is that at some point you're going to begin to retrogress. Because nothing's stagnant.
Well, that's very evident because I see where some people that you covered, now everything is external with them now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow.
It's that
So
retrogression.
they're regressing.
Yeah.
They're not.
And that's the point I'm trying to make. That's what happens when you separate. Okay, Jesus was a master teacher. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, across the board, everyone agrees with that. He was a master teacher. And if he were a master teacher, what did he teach? He taught the reality of the essence of our being. That we are the essence of the one who created us. That's what he taught. But Christianity has not been teaching that. Mm-hmm. Christianity teaches that the church is the essence of our being. Because the church in Christianity is more important than God. They don't say it, but that's how they treat the church. And the church is only the people when the leadership wants the people to do something or to obey it. But up until that point, the church is the building. And if you don't think that church is the building, sit on the communion table. If you don't think the church is the building, go in there with your iPod or iPad and put Teddy P on Sunday morning, 11 o'clock. If you don't desecrate this building, you see what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. This building. It doesn't matter about you. And the idea of your desecration has nothing to do with what you are doing as much as it has to do with you believing things that are not true. That's a desecration of self. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when we look at Christianity from that perspective, we begin to see that the very thing that we have been taught to look to for our spiritual growth and power, etc., is the thing that's rendering us impotent. The church. Because the church has no understanding whatsoever of what the scripture is talking about. I was talking to my brother-in-law yesterday, we were at my mom's, and as I was talking to him, he asked me, he said, well, what do you do? Because all of them, everyone know you don't do the hair and all stuff. I say, I teach. What do you teach? I teach the scriptures from the Hebrew Aramaic. So people don't know what God said. He could not grasp what I'm saying. You saying that all this time people don't know anything about the scriptures? And yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what about all these people on Sunday morning? And it got to be so redundant until it began to irritate me. I just had to let it go. Because I could not get him to see that the surface stuff is what's being put out there. And the stuff that appears to be the surface stuff is actually the lie with the truth buried beneath it. And I could not get to that place with him. So I had to let it go.
Right.
And these are kinds of things that actually bothers me. And it doesn't bother me because people, and it doesn't bother me in a way that I don't want to be around you. It bothers me because I can't seem to find the right way to articulate it so that everyone with whom I come in contact can have this experience. And that's to me, it irritates me.
Okay.
When we arrived and I told Phoebe, we passed this manger scene, and it just had the little structures up, didn't have the covering, just sticks, and it was sitting in front of this church, and they had this dude over there and that woman over here. I guess that Mary and Joseph, but with nobody in the manger. So I told her I need to put a sign up there saying Jesus didn't escape. Call his number, put the preacher's number up there. But I mean, you see how crazy? That's what I'm talking about. Not realizing that when it talks about where Jesus was born, metaphorically, it's speaking about the depth of ignorance about spiritual things that were in the earth when he was born. That's why he was born in Egypt. It's talking metaphorically, it's speaking about that. But realistically, it's speaking about the powers of the other world who knew what he was going to do, seeking to destroy him. You see?
Yeah.
And to put it in terms that we've experienced recently is when I was talking about the powers from the other world knowing the reason for me being in San Diego, so we got a Category 5 tornado, to create that distraction or to express that anger. Knowing something that I was not even aware of. Because I never thought about it other than I'm going to rest, That was it. So I see the same thing with Jesus not even knowing what was happening in terms of his birth. But the decree to kill all babies, it did not say to kill Jesus. Something is going on, so we got to get rid of it. That's what I'm talking about. No different than during the period of slavery. Well, every child that this man fathers grows up to be rebellious, so we need to get rid of this man. So you get rid of the seed, that kind of thing. So in order for us to get to the place where we need to be, we need to get rid of the seed that has become the distraction. And the seed that has become the distraction is the embracing of current Christianity. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially when we have been taught that this is the basis of our eternality, Christianity, when it really is the basis of our distractions, our bondage, our ignorance, our darkness. It's the basis of that. And we're so in tune with it until the Christmas lights, the Christmas songs, all these things evoke different kinds of feelings in us.
Yeah.
And I have been trying for many years to get to the place where I, along with others, simply recognize it as an opportunity to be off from work, so you can spend some time with your family that you don't know, and be with family that you only see at funerals.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I was ready to go. You know, I was ready to go.
Right.
Because the mission had been accomplished. Because the word went out to all of them that they were going to redo that photograph and they wanted everyone to bring their kids. And everyone was there except for one person. And after they did that, and then tell you something else that I struggled with yesterday. And I had to deal with it. I didn't want to go to my mama's house because I felt like this would be the last opportunity for honestly, I felt like this is the last Christmas I'll give my mom. And I felt like if I didn't go, it wouldn't be.
Right. Right.
And then I found myself saying, you know, you're probably wrong. Hoping I am.
Right.
But that's not what I felt. And then what made it even worse is that after all of them had taken taking the pictures of all the nephews and cousins and you know us, our field cousins like our first cousins.
Yeah.
That's how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
Nikki, who's my niece, my brother's daughter, Ma says, we have to take pictures together. She want to take a picture of Granny and all her kids. That's never happened before. Never happened before. So I'm like, oh my God. Am I experiencing what I felt was going to happen? So then I thought about it. If it does happen, how long will we gather that way? But anyway, what we're talking about, Ms. Deborah, is dealing with the nuances of the things that we've been taught from a religious perspective, like Christmas being Jesus' birthday, when it should be Christ's birthday, not Jesus. So, but anyway, I think that we have to, and I feel like I'm rambling, I really do. We have to look at it, put ourselves in the place of our teacher, and our teacher is Jesus, and the other part of that is understand that people were taught the same thing all over the world in a language that they understood. And that is the reason Muhammad was sent to a group of people to teach them the same things that Jesus taught. But they were a different group of people. No different than what the Lakota was taught by the medicine man in the Midwest. Same principles, but they taught it in a different way. They taught it in a different language, but the essence of it is the same. Regardless of what anyone say, Christianity has robbed the whole world of its spiritual essence. Christianity has replaced spiritual essence with material importance. Christianity is the reason that Islam is what is being expressed today. Christianity is at fault. Because Christianity and Judaism has been at war with each other until they join forces to go to war with Muslims. Both of them say, when it's convenient, of course, that so if you were to say that communism is the problem And it is the reason that the world is in such chaos at this moment. What would your feelings be about communism? We need to get rid of it, right?
Yes.
So what should your feeling be about Christianity? That's not a comfortable feeling, is it? When you think about what the feelings should based upon what it has done. And most people don't realize that at one point it was against the law to celebrate Christmas in this country. Well, most people don't know that. Did you know that? Yeah, it was against the law. In the original colonies, the 13 original colonies, it was against the law to celebrate Christmas in this country because it was considered a pagan holiday because it came from Catholicism.
I think you did mention it though a while back. Yeah.
Okay, so you got a good memory, Joe.
With some things.
Convenient.
Yeah.
But that's so. Ask yourself, why was it against the law? Until they grew strong enough not to be a cult anymore. It has not been that many years that the Baptist Church was considered a cult. But it's anything that has its roots in Christianity or in Catholicism has been allowed to flourish. As long as it does not rise up as an aggressive adversary to Catholicism, it has been allowed to flourish. Islam has risen as an aggressive adversary to Catholicism, to Christianity. That's why we have the problems we have now.
So isn't London Bridges falling down? The Catholicism.
It's falling down. It's funny the way it's falling. To try to make it more acceptable, more palatable, the weaker it becomes.
Okay.
And the weakness is in this. If it becomes, the more palatable it becomes, the more people say it's not what I thought it was.
Okay.
How can you be how can you represent God and change just to fit the people? So the more palatable it becomes, the weaker it becomes. And I don't know what the answer is to this, but I believe that we will experience a time when churches with doors were closed. There won't be enough people there to keep them open. And the question quickly becomes, what is the alternative? I don't have a clue. Other than the Cain/Nimrod thing will be replaced. Because Ron and I were talking about Cain and Abel, and we were talking about Nimrod. He was saying he saw that long before Nimrod, there was an effort to bring people to a place of worshiping themselves, and that was Cain, the representative of religion. And Abel were not two people any different than a coin. That coin has a front and a back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't take the back from that coin and still be a coin. It's inseparable.
Right.
That was Cain and Abel. So if you flip the coin the side that lands upward is the dominant side because you can't see the backside, or the other side, I should say, right? If you look at that coin that has been flipped and it lands, the only side you can see is the side that's face up. If you can see Cain and Abel that way, Cain is the coin that's face up. And the spiritual essence of man, man's spiritual essence is buried so deep in it until it is like a coin, with the wrong side face up. Religion has been the side of the coin that we have been looking at for all of these years. And now it is time for us to do something about it. What is it time for us to do? Flip the coin. Flip the coin not so that the other can be hidden, but flip the coin so that the other can be recognized for what it is, a stimulus to push us to a place of balance. Put the coin on his edge. Put it on his edge so both of it could be exposed. If it's on his edge and both sides are exposed, then both sides are balanced. They're equal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Cain is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Abel is the tree of life. Put the coin on his side, then the tree of knowledge of good and evil become balanced with the tree of life. So both of them end up being the tree of life. And the way you do that, put that coin on the edge, is by dealing with the fallacy of all the things that we have been taught, all the things that have been stuffed inside of us through Christianity, through Islam, through Judaism. All the things that have been stuffed inside of us have to be exposed so that the coin can sit on its edge. Does that make sense?
It does.
That's it. And if we were not being charged with doing that, then we would not be aware of it. That's the only reason we're aware of it, because it has become our responsibility to put the coin on the edge. And the only way we're going to get the coin on the edge is by shifting the focus so that we can see more than one side of the coin. I'll go to a convention. People are talking. I raise questions. Convention, it's just what it is. Conventions are there so things can remain conventional. So things they don't change. Conventions are designed to keep things conventional. So I go to the convention and I be non-conventional, but not in an antagonistic way. Non-conventional by raising questions. Well, what about so-and-so? So what am I doing? I'm putting the coin on the edge. Is everyone going to see it? Not at one time. But they can experience it, even though they don't know what they're experiencing. Because there are many things that we have experienced, but we didn't see them until later on. And that's one of the things that's going to have to happen. Things had gotten so bad with the Cain thing until after Shem was born. That was the balance that was being brought back. But then, guess who rose? Nimrod. And Nimrod represents the imbalance of the human leading people to it, doing things its way. Its way. When it talks about Cain offering an agrarian sacrifice as opposed to blood sacrifice, It's talking about Cain offering what it assumed or what it chose, how it chose to interpret what it saw. And I'll explain this in a second. How it chose to explain what it saw, as opposed to Abel interpreting what really is. Now, this is what I mean. Hey, Dave. The idea of Cain is talking about earth consciousness and religion only. It is only because an agrarian offering it comes from, the only thing that it comes from is the earth. It has no lifeblood in it. For the life of the human is where? In the blood. In the blood. So a blood offering is talking about a recognition or a voluntary embracing of that which is spiritual and earthly. Because the blood itself is earth. Is it not?
Mm-hmm.
And if the life is in the blood, then that's spiritual. Because if you don't have air, breath, spirit, there is no flow of blood, period. But in the agrarian sense, it's only from the ground. It's spirit, but it doesn't speak. It does not have functionality as does the blood offering. It's different. It functions through photosynthesis simply because of the God that created it. But the God that created it functions because it is who it is. And the deniability came when Cain decided that I'm not going to embrace the spiritual essence of my being. I'm going to create my own essence. And he did that by virtue of, or that's representative rather, of the agrarian offering. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when Shem came into being, it was more a metaphor of things being brought back into balance. And along comes Nimrod. And the word Cain also means spear or arrow. And if you read the scriptures carefully, you will find that Cain was killed by an arrow. So the very thing that he embraced is the thing that killed him. You see what I'm talking about?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
But yet, you never read where his blood cries out, but you do read by Abel. The thing that he left to die inside of him is the thing that never died. And that is the reason why we're able to say things like, that's a bright idea, enlighten me. Because that's Abel speaking from the depth of our essence. But we have hidden those, we have been blinded to the reality of this essence because of our focus on Christmas as opposed to Jesus. And understanding that if it's someone's birthday that is eternal, then all the rest of the year, they don't exist until that day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even when you get to that day, Jesus doesn't exist. You're saying that Christ exists, or Christ is being born. If Christ is being born, then prior to that he didn't exist. So you're denying the spiritual essence of who Jesus is, which means you're also denying the spiritual essence of your own being.
Mm.
And to deny the spiritual essence of your own being is to continue in the vein of Cain. Because you're offering something, you're embracing something, you're ingesting something, you're recognizing something that you created out of nothing. In other words, you brought this thing into existence and it's not real. It cannot keep you alive. The only thing that Cain's offering could keep alive was the body. But the Abel is dealing with the life being in the blood, the spirit, the light. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when Shem brings it back to balance, Nimrod comes, and the tower that he was building was one of total denial of the essence of who man was created to be. It was in the terms that we would in today's vernacular, it would be building our own empire. Building our own kingdom, the kingdom of billionaires. I built this. This is my kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And let me show you something about that. If you can see Donald Trump, since he's in the news, of being Nimrod, and all of these people who are following him as being humanity, right? Why are they following him? Because without even saying it, he has convinced them that they could be him one day. And the heck of it is, the least educated and the poorest people are the ones who follow him.
Mm.
So what's happening is that the ones who have the least opportunity to be him, or even to be in his presence, are the ones who seeking that. It's almost like the child who always get the hell beat out of him is the one who wants to be around the parent all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You see? So that, and now if you can take that and look at Nimrod and see humanity, everybody is trying to be Nimrod. Everybody want to be godly. Everybody is being taught to be godly. And no one ever explains to you what it means to be godly. And the scripture never talks about it unless you get into Paul's stuff. Jesus don't talk about that. The psalmist doesn't talk about that. The psalmist talks about you being God. You being the essence of who you were created to be. If you are godly, it means that you're something else, but you're acting like something.
Yeah.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
You're not Elohim. You're not created in the image of Elohim. You're just acting like you were, or at least trying to. And how can you possibly act like Elohim if you see yourself as being a mere man? How can you be godly if you see yourself as being human when the godly nature says you create? Therefore recognizing its true essence. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And the evil that's on the tree is Christianity. It's the unrightness. The evil is on the tree. Now let me show you the importance of it. If it had been totally banned, it meaning access to it, to the extent that no one had access except Catholicism, then we would not be here today because we wouldn't know it existed. Because we've been covered up so deeply inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that the first thing that the Catholics did was ban the reading of the books that they chose not to put in? And why do you think that the Bible was only written in Latin? Why do you think that only church leaders could have a quote-unquote Bible or Quran? Why? Why do you think that happened? Why do you think that only the sages had access to the Zohar? Or the scrolls? Why? For the control of humanity. Set yourself up with God. You are Nimrod. And the enlightenment is what you say it is. This is the tower that he was building. Whatever I say it is, that's what it is. And you know it's no different because you don't have access. No, you can have access to every book except those that relate to the spiritual. And the main works of spirituality that you're going to have access to are the ones that we have influenced the most. What are you talking about? Paul's letters. You can have those. Because they fit what we want.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to limit you to what Jesus said. Even though Jesus talked specifically to Thomas, the writings of Thomas are not important. They're not the Bible. Because the Bible is the inspired word of God. But, and if you walk into church and say, if the Bible is the inspired word of God, where did it come from? It came from God. But God didn't write it with a pen, so where did it come from? What about all these other books? But these are the ones that God chose. How did God choose them? Nobody in that church can tell you that. Nobody in that church can tell you that. Sit there and tell them what the bishop did. Yeah, I used to be one of them. But and then they're gonna say you're blasphemous when they don't know what it means. But you see what I'm talking about? We have to. All of this has to change, and it doesn't have to change at Beulah. It doesn't have to change at Goodhain. It doesn't have to change at St. Paul. It has to change with you.
Mm-hmm.
With you. Because if it doesn't change with you, nothing else changes. And all I said goes right back to where I started. The chaos that we are experiencing in this earth is because we embrace things like Christmas. We say we don't, but we do. We talk about what other people are doing. And how things, well, them folk at the church saying this. It doesn't matter what they say. What matters is what you think, what you say. Why? When it talks about good overcoming evil, it's talking about rightness being more palatable than unrightness. And how strange do you look at people who eat green plums as opposed to waiting until they get right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what happens when you bite into a green something sour? You frown. The unrightness of it causes your face to be disfigured. Though temporarily, it's disfigured. But something sweet doesn't. Is not railing against something, but speaking about something. You look at the plum on the tree and you say, well, the plum is not ripe yet. You don't condemn the plum for not being ripe. Do you?
No.
You wait until it gets right. The plum tree in my yard, was not producing, or it will produce and the plums will fall off before they ripen. So I treated the roots of the tree. Got that?
Yeah.
You treat the roots. And the roots, hey, you got this stuff? You treat the roots of the tree with a fertilizer or with something that's going to enhance its growth, go strengthen it, go nourish it, right?
Yes.
Now, if I'm talking about this, then in regards to the Christianity aspects of it, what is the root of the tree? The root of the tree is not Catholicism. The root of the tree is your essence. Catholicism is the unripeness of the tree. It's the thing that keeps the tree unripe continuously. And you nourish it by exposing this truth. Got it? I don't know why it's popped in my head. You know why they call the street in Charleston Phosphate Ashley Boulevard? Because of the Ashley River and phosphate. Because phosphate was found in the area and it became a fertilizer for the rest of the nation. I don't know why that popped in my head. Did you know that? It started in South Carolina. That's my point. Anyway, phosphorus was found to be a nourisher for plant life. Anyway. So, when
We gardeners know what you're talking about.
when we nourish the roots, we don't see the outcome. You don't even see the roots absorbing them. But one day when you look at it, the tree is ripening. So the finished thought is, you don't condemn people for what they believe or where they are. If you condemn anyone, you ought to be yourself for attempting to condemn them or to chastise them for what they say they believe. You don't have a right to do that. Ask your question, answer it, keep it moving, right? Sheldon.
Metaphorically, what you're saying, to see it in different terms, is looking at everything from the big picture with Christmas and that being born of supposedly your essence being born on that particular day, and denying its existence prior to that is essentially saying that because your existence is dependent upon something and all of a sudden it was born, that it also can die as well. So whenever something is born, automatically and inherently into the nature of it, it can die. And with that concept, or if you buy into it, you buy into Christianity or it being born, without you even consciously thinking about it, what you think of yourself, how you operate, maneuver, whatever, is based upon or built upon the grounds of that particular concept, which is more so the roots of how you see yourself and what drives you, etc. And so you're talking about the changing the thoughts and changing how Christmas resonates with you. Not just changing that and not even necessarily being aware of it, but just feeling something differently, totally drives you in a different course in life. But you don't have to ever be conscious of that particular thing. It just automatically happens. So even as a child, a lot of the things that we may look at as being harsh as adults, a child is not even aware of. So as a child is with its parents, it doesn't know that all of these supposedly harmful things, they're being shielded from or they don't exist. It's just not in their forefront at all. It's the same exact way. Changing your ideas of what resonates with you with Christmas automatically changes your life as well.
Well, think about it this way too, Sheldon. In order to make you accept it, you get into the Christmas spirit. what does that mean? If we are to be honest with ourselves, that's a different feeling that we experience at Christmas. When people are around, when we're around family, when we do different things, that's a different feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Same Thanksgiving is a different feeling. Thanksgiving was instituted by Abraham Lincoln, not the Pilgrims, in an effort to bring the nation together. That's where Thanksgiving came from, where he made a national holiday. But we get into the spirit, and what happens? When we talk about the Christmas spirit, the only time of the year you hear that type of music is that time. So you don't get used to it. So that when you hear it again, it stimulates something in you and shifts your focus from everything else to this period of time. And then in order to keep you focused and to pass it from generation to generation, this is the time of year when you receive things that you don't receive at any other time of the year. And that in itself leaves you subconsciously looking forward to that period. Because you receive something. You experience something. You hear something that does not exist at any other time of the year except, that block of time. And when that happens, the beginning of it is the delivery. The day is the birth of it. The day after is the death of it. So only during that block of time does Christ exist in your life. Isn't that crazy? But subconsciously, that's what's happening. And when we can transcend that and understand that it's not Jesus-mas, it's Christmas, it's Christmas. When we can accept that and separate from it, then the idea, this is what we call it, the spirit of giving. The spirit of giving exists between Thanksgiving and Christmas, or New Year's, at most. People give more during that time. The only time that most people want to help anybody is give them a Christmas dinner. You understand what I'm saying?
That's what, as you're talking, that I'm seeing. Because during the holiday period that stretches from that is the only time when the body that says it is Christian to represent Christ really gives. And what they're all giving, and then giving to the people who they feel is least among the homeless.
But guess what else they do, Diane?
And the poor, or the kids that's in homes.
Guess what they do? They take names from a dead tree.
Yeah.
They put names on Christmas tree. Something that's been cut off from its roots. And that's where they take names from to give. I mean, when you look at all the things that happen, and just let me bring you up to date, I'm talking about the whole idea of the chaos in the world being based upon the false teachings that we've gotten from Christianity. And the major one is Christmas, not Easter. Christmas. Now number two would be Easter. Because, resurrected for our sin, died for our sin. Now, this is the thing that gets me about that. If he died for our sin, why was he resurrected?
Yeah, okay.
So, Easter is the second one because Easter says you don't have to do anything, but at the same time it says you have to change your life. But that's an impossibility to do both of those things at the same time. So that's where we are, especially with the Christmas idea of the chaos. Now let me show you something else. I do not remember a time when this time of the year has been this chaotic worldwide, but at the same time, as much quote-unquote natural damage has been inflicted upon the United States. I don't. And even with the 7 feet of snow in Boston, in Buffalo, New York last year, there was no damage like this inflicted as it was with a tornado on the ground for 150 miles. Tornado yesterday.
Yesterday,
In Alabama, Birmingham and Tuscaloosa. People killed, flooding in Texas and flooding in Oklahoma, just, these kinds of things. It's like the university saying to us, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? You can't do anything about it until you truly embrace the essence of your being. And you can't embrace the essence of your being by subconsciously embracing Christianity. You have to let it go. If you embrace Christianity, then you are embracing everything that goes along with it. You can't be a Baptist without being a Catholic. You can't be a Methodist without being a Catholic. It doesn't matter what denomination you say you are a Catholic. And the Pope is your God.
With me was at your house 2 weeks ago when George was saying something and he trying to make a point and he said, "But we're Christians, or y'all are Christians." And everybody in the room was like a soundingly, "No, I'm not Christian." I said that they're like, wow, 22 years to the point. Never thought I would see everybody in the room say that I'm not a Christian, but that spoke.
And maybe that's what led to this where we are now.
It spoke so much volume. Yeah.
I mean, you cannot embrace any of it without being a Catholic. And someone asked me a few weeks ago, why is it that we have not had communion? And I said, we ain't need it. And you all right, baby?
I'm stretching.
Oh, I thought you were leaving the church. We didn't need it, but I did not understand. It wasn't that we didn't need it. It was that we can't embrace it anymore. We have to see it for the metaphor that it is. We have to see it for the spiritual essence that it represents. We have to also see the origin of it. It's not that we didn't need it. We never needed it. It's that we cannot embrace it, because if we do, we're also embracing its origin. You don't eat the plum without eating a portion of the root, because the nourishment comes through the root.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea, and I shared 2 weeks ago with my class, on my Monday night class, that they were talking about baptism, and I was saying that when we go to different places, we can't just buy into it just to go along to get along. And I gave an example that when I did the last baptism that I did a couple of years ago, I did it at St. Paul, and I baptized my own folk, but I didn't baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I baptized them the way that Jesus was baptized. You know, the 10 gifts.
Yeah.
That's how I baptized them. I could not do it the way, that they did it. I was taught to do it. I could not do the right hand of fellowship stuff. Because all of that is representative of the church. And as long as you are denominationally the church, Christianity, you're a Catholic. Because that's the origin of it all. Every ritual that we participate in, or have participated in, has its roots in Catholicism. So if we are to be the order in a disorderly world, we cannot feed disorder. And at the same time, talk about bringing order. It's not going to work. One more thing. I was with someone last week, and they said to me, do I need to get the umbrella? Because it was cloudy and heavy rain. I said, I don't worry about that. And we went into this place where I was talking with them, and it started raining really, really hard. And when we got ready to go, it started raining. When we got in the car and pulled off, it started raining. It looked at me like, but that's this kind of stuff that we deal with, are supposed to be dealing with. Because again, Columbia is on the verge of flood again. Have you been across 77?
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you see how the water is and what's pooling over there at the sewage treatment plant?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I forgot to my phone. This newfangled stuff. This ain't Jesus calling me. It was right.
So
Go ahead,
you were
baby.
speaking about order.
Mhm.
So what is the order of Melchizedek?
The order of Melchizedek is not, simply put, order of Melchizedek is balance. Now, if you're talking about an order in terms of his royalty, is recognizing who he is. Remember, Melchizedek was the one to whom Abraham rendered the tithe.
Okay.
And Jesus was of the order of Melchizedek. Why? Because no one knew where he came from and no one knew where he went.
Right.
That's simply speaking to being born again, returning to the beginning.
Okay.
No one knows where the Spirit comes from. No one knows where it goes to when. It moves as it chooses.
Yeah.
That's what it's talking about.
Okay.
So no one knows where your enlightenment comes from, and no one knows where it's carrying you.
Okay.
And when I say no one, I'm talking about from a human perspective.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
So, if we are not of the order of Melchizedek, then we can't speak to the weather. We can't speak to the sea, and it obeys. We can't speak to the wind. But if you are of that order, then the Father of all spirituality renders the tithe to you, respects you for who you are. Abraham was the father of what? Many nations. Isn't that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
And he submitted to Melchizedek. You would think it would be the other way around. But Melchizedek was the high priest. So he was the essence of spirituality. And the tithe represents earthly labor, supporting spirituality in the earth for the purpose of spreading spiritual essence, or the understanding of spiritual essence. It's not for all that other stuff. Hi. I got, we need some tickets. I need some tickets.
Okay. I have it.
All right.
Can you explain why it is that rendering the tithe, and maybe it doesn't, why it results in, I guess, you being taken care of? Like that's like an offshoot. I know that's not the purpose, but like you, financially, like you have what you need, that kind of thing.
You talking about the one who's rendering it?
Right.
Okay.
But I'm trying to figure out like how to disentangle that from prosperity.
I got you.
Okay.
First of all,
Excuse me.
rendering the tithe does not bring prosperity. If rendering the tithe were to bring prosperity, everyone in prosperity ministries would be fine. Rendering the tithe only brings prosperity when the tithe is rendered for the right purposes to the right people.
Okay.
Got it?
That's
Yeah,
volume.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That.
That's what.
Whoa.
That is the reason And I want you to know something. Boy, that's Cuba. Okay. I'm going to. But that's the,
We're all going.
yeah, okay.
Don't leave me here.
Maybe we'll have our meeting in Cuba.
That's great.
Janice said she's gonna go to Cuba, leave her and come back.
The tithe, the tithe, when I talk about it to the right person, right, and the right people, that is one of the reasons Foundation of Greater Faith has never suffered as other places of worship have. When the economy has downturn, how many of y'all been laid off just because of the economy? Well, sure, they ain't talking about your school kid. You can't get laid off if you're working. But you understand what I'm saying? Janice at this place where she's miserable. And all of a sudden she said, you know, I'm tired of this. And boom, she gone. Then her nemesis shows up. Then he gone. Why do these things happen the way they happen? You know? They happen the way they happen because the purposes are right. The intent is pure. Because when you, this is what happens in prosperity ministry. Deborah, the reason you're not prosperous is because you're not rendering the tithe. So Deborah renders the tithe and an offering, and she does it for 5 years. And she's still messing up. Nothing happened for Deborah. Now, oh, Deborah, the problem is that you don't have enough faith. That's the escape for everything. You don't have enough faith. But Deborah never asked, how much faith do I need? Because if she asks that, then the faith of a mustard seed. That's all you need.
I got that.
So if you say you got the faith of a mustard seed, then why are you not prospering? If you don't have it, you don't have it at all. So then the question becomes, well, if you didn't have faith, why were you doing this in the first place? To tithe and offering, right? I did it because I have faith. I trust what you said to me. Well, your faith is in the wrong thing. Your faith needs to be in God. I mean, you see all the outs.
Could you imagine them trying to get tithes and offering or something? You'd be like, nah, why you not paying tithe? I don't really have that much faith, so I don't want to waste my time.
Yeah. And then it becomes, well, you can't be an officer in the church if you don't tithe. All these you can't be's. And then when you go to the scriptures looking for these things, you find none of it. But when you go to the scriptures looking for the tithe, it's very specific. And I do understand now the reason I have refused to teach what the scripture says about tithing in churches. I don't teach it. I went to one preacher and told him, and he used it to get control of all the finances in that church.
No.
And then he went back to work.
Oh.
Pure greed. The reason I don't teach it is because it can be manipulated for those purposes. The reason I believe I understand it with a greater clarity is because it shows me that just because reverend or pastor is in front of your name, it doesn't mean that you're a Levite. It doesn't mean you're a Levite.
True.
The only way that you can be a Levite is that you've experienced the deposits in the people that change their lives, that affects them. And I'm not talking about the people sitting in front of them. And it's true.
But not in the sense of what we're, because see, I guess the word that hits me so much is the bless. It goes back to what, well, Christianity is put in bless. Bless is
But
things.
it is.
Yeah, what
Let
I'm
me say
talking
this,
about.
Diane. There are 4 words in the scripture for bless,
Okay.
and that's just one of them. So go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying, the nucleus of the core, because when you look, I guess when you were talking, I see pictures just splashed out before me. The Leviticus experience and the fullness of understanding what Leviticus experience is versus what we see in the physical as the church, what, you know, the mega churches. You know. And I guess for me, because when I do ask or speak or put it out there or even ask the Creator, I go back to, is there a nucleus other than us? Is there a nucleus?
Okay.
Yeah, that's desiring. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's desiring what you just,
Yeah.
and of just, are still just wanting pomp and circumstances.
We the only nucleus.
Okay.
Ain't nobody but us doing what we do.
Because that's the
I ain't
answer I
playing no
got.
more games about maybe somebody that's out there.
Yeah.
It don't even matter. We the only one. Because if you don't act like you the only one, you don't get the job done. You wait on somebody else to do it. So we the only thing out there. That's it. And when I look at, you remember the other, last Saturday week or whatever time, where I can't remember now, when we were together, when Juanita came in. My niece, when she came in, she came by last night, and she said that when she came in, and when she sat there and listened, in the beginning, she says, oh my God, I'm in the middle of all of these highly intelligent people. And then she says, she didn't know what we were talking about, and all of a sudden it clicked. She understood everything we said. All of it made sense. But she had to release something. She was not in the midst of highly intelligent people. She was in the midst of people on a spiritual journey. You can be in the midst of highly intelligent people, and they don't see what you see what I'm talking about? And I'm not denying the intellect there, because I don't do mediocrity too well. That's one of my flaws, I think. Probably the only one I have.
You're a funny guy.
Huh?
You're a funny guy.
Okay, Frank. But when she said that, it verified a lot of things, because you know, we talk about one of the reasons we meet only with us is because we say things that other people cannot embrace. And sometimes we say stuff that we have to challenge that each other say, and we speak in a language that nobody understands most of the time. And that helped me to see that she was supposed to be there, because it clicked with her. And the things that we were talking about, she wasn't there when we started, but she was able to pick up on it. That to me is a Levitical experience, because her whole life has changed. Even her husband's life changed. I mean, he was like, you ain't supposed to be no preacher or woman, that kind of thing, right? Then when she's coming to the class and she started teaching stuff, he began to recognize she knows what she's talking about. And everything about him changed to the extent that he now says, if you want to know something, call Jane Richard. And if she is looking for something, studying something, he said, say yourself some time and call Jane Richard. That kind of thing. Why? Because his life has changed. How many people like that you have how many people you come in contact with whose life has changed because you came in contact with them? And I'm not talking about change that they don't want to be bothered with you, because you're so negative or so religious or so nitpicky, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about their lives have changed to the extent that they say, you know what? You need to talk to Shelley. You need to talk to me. I don't know how she does it, but she always seems like she's on top of it, no matter what's going on. That kind of thing. How many people you've been around like that, whose lives you changed? That's how we change the chaos. And I believe after today, because of recognizing this major stumbling block called Christmas / Christianity, recognizing how we cannot embrace this thing and be the essence of who we created to be at the same time. Jesus did not embrace it. Jesus challenged it. At every turn, he challenged it. Muhammad challenged every system, but he did not fight a system. Isn't it not funny that Muhammad embraced the teachings of Jesus and accepted them as his own as well? But yet Christianity does everything it can to discount Muhammad. Think about it. And the thing that gets me is that the ones who discount Muhammad have never read the Quran. Never. And will tell you not to read it. They demonize it to make you afraid to read it because they don't want you to know what's in it. Same thing with the Bible. The Catholics did that. You remember what they used to do to Latin? They didn't want you to know what was in it. If you don't know what's in it, I can tell you anything because God told me to tell you. But if they read it, and not only, I'm not talking about the 75% of that's Old Testament. I'm not talking about that. Read what the Quran says about Jesus and Mary. It is more, it gives more reverence to the teachings of Jesus than Christianity does. It gives greater respect to Mary than Christianity does. But the people who challenge that have never read it. So why is it that these two men in recent history, and believe you me, based upon time, this is recent history. These two men in recent history were able to establish a sense of spiritual essence that was corrupted as a result of their death. Think about it. Is it Islam meaning light one or something? A light? The word itself, Islam? Thank you, Taylor. You know what you mean right there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Professor. Think about this. When Jesus died, in subsequent years, Jesus, what was it, 1,200 years when Catholicism came into being? Well, what happened is something came into being called Christianity, right? And out of Christianity came all these denominations, right? And all of them were supposed to be based on the same thing. When Muhammad died, there were different denominations of Islam. The Sunni, the Shiite, the Ottawa are different denominations of Muslims, just like there are different denominations of Christians.
Mm-hmm.
So why did these things emanate from these two men? Because they were the most powerful spiritual teachers in recent history. And they had to be splintered, their teachings had to be splintered in order to keep Catholicism in power.
Submission, surrender to God.
Submission.
To God.
To God.
Yeah, to God.
So Islam is, which means that
Putting the kingdom first.
putting the kingdom first. What did Jesus say? Seek ye first
Kingdom.
the kingdom. You see, both men taught the same thing. It's the people who came after them that taught something different. That's what happened.
Well, what you were saying as well, in regards to not reading this and not reading that, or also taking certain books out. I think it's because once you read, if you're only exposed to a certain thing, that may be the pinnacle of your experience, and so you take it as truth or as what resonates with you the most, up until you read something else that is truer, and without anyone even telling you necessarily this is right or wrong, it automatically resonates from a deeper standpoint within yourself to the point where you automatically know it's right naturally. And so it's automatically a reason why you would not want certain things to be exposed, or people to be exposed to certain things and certain writings, etc. It's the same reason why we can read things from all of these different cultures, whether they be indigenous or not, and it resonates very deeply to the point where you understand exactly where it's coming from, and not even really having anything to do with that culture or their belief systems and things like that, but it is very powerful.
I think that based on a lot upon what you said, and in keeping with what Diane asked about the core of the nucleus, all of the teachings are scattered. Because the things that we talk about are the scattered teachings, the truth that's out there. And they are completed with us when we come together. Because everyone has a different piece of it. Or I've seen it. Even when we talked about the melanin thing, and you only got it the night before. But there was so much missing from what I saw. And when you brought in the understanding of what science is trying to do with it now, those kinds of things, is bringing in all the pieces to the puzzle. And and now being shown the necessity and disassociating with Catholicism, Christianity consciously doing it, so that it does not subconsciously influence. So dispelling or disconnecting from this holiday that was once illegal in this country, which is Christmas, disconnected from that, and understanding that the gifting thing is all about keeping you focused on the day, and not what it truly represents. I don't know, I get the feeling, and I don't know who's on the phone or who's going to be looking at this, and I don't know whether it resonates or not. But I get the feeling that we are at a point where the puzzle that's necessary for us to be expressive of an experience that all of mankind can feel, that last piece of that puzzle is here. And the reason I say that is because out of all that you learn, when you get to a place of change, the root of what you have been taught that has not been right has to be dealt with at that point. Because it's like this. It's like a tree, and what you've been taught is this whole tree, right? And what you start doing is going down the tree in terms of being enlightened, and seeing how things function. And when you go all the way down to the tree, as you go down the tree and you get to the root that has fed everything that you've been taught, now that root is destroyed, it's burned. You know where it talks about the tree that does not give good fruit? It is dug up by the root and cast in the fire. We are at that root of purification now. Because all this other stuff has been dealt with. Now we have to deal with what nourishes it. And what nourishes it is Christianity. It's Catholicism. It's the splintered Islam. It's Judaism. That's what, you understand what I'm saying? So now when we deal with this, the purity of what we see, and we're dealing with the root of it, which are those things I just named, now what comes out of that is life itself. But I truly believe that we are at the root of the chaos. That's what I'm saying. I believe we're at the root of the chaos. And every one of us in this room, those who are not in this room, those who are on the phone, everyone who's connected, has experienced a tremendous amount of chaos over the last few years, but survived. Have gone through things that we did not know whether we were going to be able to survive. And I don't mean dead in terms of graveyard dead, but I'm talking about survive in terms of just living in this earth. Have come through it. And I believe that we're at the root of it, and that's one of the reasons that some of us are experiencing a huge amount of chaos. And that's why we're seeing so much chaos in the earth. Because if the tree is chaotic, then the majority of the chaos exists at the root that nourishes the tree. And that's where you have your greatest experience of chaos. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I think that's where we are. Janice.
So a couple years ago, got rid of all my Christmas things. Mom and I would get together on New Year's Day and do things in parts of Christmas. And I don't know, we talked about like there were things that we don't celebrate anymore, and we didn't replace them. We didn't have any kind of celebrations at all. And we talked about getting together with family, and it's okay to enjoy your family this time of year and that kind of thing. And didn't put up a tree last year, but like I would, wrap things on the wall and, Well, now I'm living with someone who really likes Christmas. There's a tree and, Christmas movies and Christmas music and all that stuff. And I don't mind. I'll be honest, I don't mind. It doesn't feel like Christmas did when I was younger. That feeling isn't there. I don't get in the spirit. I hear the
You ain't no
music
church
in the
woman, no.
stores. Huh?
You ain't no church woman, no.
No, but Mom would play gospel, and we
Yeah.
put up a tree when I was young, and like I remember that feeling, and that's not there anymore, and that's okay. But I'm trying to figure out now, like,
You the essence of what we were talking about before you got here.
yeah, like I don't care. I'm like, I don't really want to fight dude over the Christmas tree, like.
Yeah. So what?
I'm like,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
can hang some
yeah.
stuff on it.
And that's what I'm talking about, Janice.
But
That's it. You are the essence of what I'm talking about.
But now I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, okay, so I'm like, we exchange gifts with his family and things like that, and we exchange gifts with each other, and invite Mom and stuff like that. But I'm like, now I'm trying to figure out, I'm like, now what do I do? I'm like, how do I disassociate with Christmas without like,
You've done it.
okay.
See, this is the thing.
The tree's pretty.
We know what
Like,
church means, circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we say church, we know we're not talking about this circle thing. The reason we use the word is because it's in the vernacular, and people know what you're talking about. When I started earlier, one of the things I was talking about, baby girl, was disconnecting from the feeling,
Okay.
separating from that feeling. I'm not talking about the stuff out there, the decoration stuff, and being honest about it, because to say you separate from that feeling with your mind without really not feeling it, the universe knows. You can't lie to the universe. So when I talk about disconnecting from it, I'm talking about that Christmassy spirit feeling that you're accustomed to experiencing. And when I say you're not church lady, that's a good thing for I'm concerned, because you got less to get rid of.
Yeah.
You got less baggage. Then, you know, so, but as far as finding somebody over Christmas tree, I ain't gonna do that. You know, let me put it this way. Every single teacher, it is imperative that that experience dies in order for us to have the effect on humanity that our Creator intends for us to have. We cannot embrace the pagans, for lack of a better term, and expect to be the light. It's not gonna happen. And I got a sneaky feeling that all y'all will probably get something written on this thing about Christmas in a few days.
You think so?
You're missing your scribe. Farmer's traveling.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to
That
write
means
it.
she won't write it though.
Well, she'll sit there and take notes all day long, but I have to write it. I've told her, I've begged her about compile your notes into a book. I don't care. You know how some people, well, I taught that. No, we taught it. Everything that I say, we taught it because that's who we are. It doesn't matter. Well, Pastor, boy, sometimes I say, maybe if I die, I should do it. You think? but yeah, go ahead.
I'm still. I don't know. I guess I'm still wrestling with it. I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it's just. I know it's important to him, and I want to be supportive, and I just.
Of course. How supportive were you of your mom before she started seeing things this way? How many family members have you separated from because of what they believe?
I don't know that we've separated from
Thank you.
anybody. There are things we don't do with them. But,
Same thing.
yeah.
Same thing. When you're with them, they do what they do, right? And you participate or you don't. But that's not who you are.
Right.
What's the difference? The only difference is in the house with you. That's the only difference. And coming from a huge amount of family, I mean a large amount, huge, you learn that you could be in the midst of and not participate.
Yeah.
You there, but well, you're there, but you're not yet.
Yeah.
It's not fucking hard. Make a taller move. I told him earlier we was out there at my mama's house. I said, boy, it's enough for us to make a taller move. We even got Jane over there.
What?
Tarzan movie, I had to figure out what he was saying too.
We
Well,
even
the
got,
union is strong with you today.
so, but anyway, I've been around them all week.
Okay.
So, we are there, but I'm not.
Yeah.
And it's okay. That's the point I'm trying to make. Know where you are.
Yeah.
Jesus was there. He even fostered some of the rituals when he went to the temple to make the sacrifice. Yeah. So,
Okay.
but he understood that he was beyond that. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
So, and a step further, Muhammad protected people who believed totally different than what he believed. You ought to read the historical accounts of how he protected, how people who believed in different things that are considered pagan by Islam now, how he protected them in what's known as Turkey and Syria, that area, Iraq, that area. He protected them.
That speaks to him also recognizing their divinity.
Yes.
Even when they didn't recognize it themselves.
Right.
So, regardless of what they may have thought and he didn't agree with, he still recognized the essence of who they were and recognized that they were just not their beliefs.
And the hell of it is, he protected them from Christmas. That's who he was protected them from. the Catholics, Christianity, he protected them because they were going to be burned at the stake because they believed something different. And it has not been that long in terms of history that people were literally being killed because of what they believe. They act like ISIL is the first folk on earth to kill somebody because of what they believe. Hell, they learned it from Christianity. They didn't learn it from Islam. Think about it. There was no Islamic conquest. But it's the Christian conquest, was it not? You can look at history. The problem with Islam did not come until it began to splinter into denominations based on which one of Muhammad's sons they were going to follow. That's where it came from. And Christianity you make a murderer a saint. Is that not the same thing?
Yeah.
So what am I saying to you? Catholicism controls the world. That's what I'm saying to you. It controls the world. Catholicism finances Israel through the United States government. Because if you try to stop funding Israel, it's the Christians who go fight you. You see what I'm talking about? It's the Christians who go fight you. The reason Israel can do anything they want to do to the Palestinians is simply because they're Palestinians, they're Muslims. That's why. And nobody talks about the Christians in the midst of the Gaza Strip who Israel is also killing. Nobody talks about them. There are Christians in the Gaza Strip and on the West Bank. Nobody talks about that. The whole Irish thing, Irish Republic. You remember when they had the war in Ireland? Mm-hmm. It was Catholics fighting Protestants. That's what it was. Yeah. And the Protestants were the poor and the Catholics were the rich. They controlled their government. Let me give you another fact. The only Catholic countries, when I say Catholic, I'm talking about nations that are predominantly Catholic. Mm-hmm. The only ones that are not poor are European nations. White people. People of color who are predominantly Catholic, then every nation is poor. Mm-hmm. But the people of European descent are not. Think about it.
They just provide resources that feed the European countries.
That's right.
The
raw materials. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have to disconnect. That's why we have to have this experience that you just described. And not just have it, but become it to the extent that it is an everlasting thing and not just something we experience from time to time. We don't need glimpses of light. We don't need sparks of light. We are the light. And let's embrace that. And when we embrace that, everything changes. I was talking, and I'm done when I say this, let's ask a question. I was talking to Ron, and I said to Ron, when I made the announcement at Greater Faith that we're going to, the teachers are going to meet at the house, and we're going to have overnight at the house. And Joyce raised his hand and said, whose house? And I said, at our house. And he said, oh, I didn't know what you're talking about, Ron's house or somebody else's. And I'm like, what do you mean? When I said the house, it's our house. This is, the expectation, I guess, was to say at my house or at Phoebe's, you know. But that's, and I went on to say that I believe the reason people are comfortable is because we don't believe it's just ours. It's not mine. It's ours, and that's where the comfort, you know, that comes from. So that's, and I do think that was established the time y'all, the first time y'all said it. Remember that? I think it's established then. They thought it was the strangest thing. But so.
Long time ago, my goodness.
Yeah, and you're still a child.
When we were still college students.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They got a feedback cooked breakfast for them. They got it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like you just get up and you just make biscuits. Like I never understand. It's crazy.
Y'all been doing that forever though.
Yeah. And that's what I'm talking about. Being that experience, because when you are that experience, you have all things in common. When I'm in Columbia, I don't worry about where am I going to have a place to stay, or if something happens to the car, if someone will come get me, if I'm going to need some help. My question is, who am I going to call? Which one? Because that never crosses my mind. Because I know there's no question about that. I'm going to sleep somewhere if ain't no one on the sofa. I ain't sleeping in no car. But that's the kind of thing that I believe the experience leads to. Where we have all things in common. That's it. Are there any questions? And if there is anyone who is listening to this or shall be listening in the future, who's made to feel uncomfortable about the things that we said, that discomfort is simply a block to the truth. And I make no apologies for it. As a matter of fact, I want to, I can't emphasize enough how much I hope it makes you uncomfortable to the extent that you research it for yourself. I'm done.